Good morning, everyone. Usually I clear off the counter behind me before I start. Wrapped up things throughout the week, but I forgot to do that today. So hi, welcome. A hat and a purse because I went out last week. Outside. Hi. My microphone is also not where it needs to be. Let me move it over. I guess I was not ready for this morning. If you're watching this for the first time ever, I actually start out a little bit more prepared than this, but not today. Not today. I don't know why. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi. We're talking about Mexico City today. You guys, I'm seeing in the comments you guys are saying it's still waiting for me to join. Please let me know that you can see me. Can you see me? Can you see me? Because it says I'm live. Anyone? No? Huh. This is interesting. Do. Okay. Y'all can see me now. Perfect. I was like, this is awkward. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi. We're here to talk about Mexico City. If you're watching this for the first time, my name is Roshida Dowe, and I'm here to talk to you about Mexico City because I live in Mexico City. I moved here for the first time in 2019, spent about a year away, and then I've been back ever since. So I live in Mexico City because I just love it here. I just love it here. I love the vibes. I love the people. I love the food. And so I'm a big proponent of you finding the place that is right for you. And Mexico City is a place that's right for me. I'm not saying it's going to be right for you. I'm saying it's my place. I am a career break coach, and I help women leave jobs that don't serve them to find their happiness wherever it may be. And that's what I did with my life. I left a job the job left me in 2018. And since then, I've been helping women do whatever it is. In fact, yesterday, I met a man. Some people who are probably here right now were there when it happened. And he asked me what I do. And I was like, how do I explain this to someone in a different culture? Because it's often hard to understand. So I was like, whatever I want. Like, there's really no, whatever I want. And so let's talk about a life of doing whatever you want and living in Mexico City. I was in Puerto Vallarta a couple weeks ago, and one of the women there is Brown Girl Butters. And so I've been using I bought some of her butters. This is a mango butter with a leather scent. I like kind of manly, more masculine scents. So this is leather from Brown Girl Butters. And I really liked it. You can see her website and her phone number there. This is not an ad. She did not pay me, but I just really like her butter. She has mango and shea butters. One of the things about living in Mexico City is that it's very dry. Because of the altitude we're at, the air is thin. It's a very dry city. So I'm always lotioning at the start of these videos because I am always ashy. You always ashy. Always. Okay, so drop your Mexico City questions in the comments and we will get to them. While we're doing that, let me say hi to the people in our membership. I have a YouTube membership. We meet every Thursday evening and we talk about our lives, and they get some private videos that nobody else gets. Let's say hi to who's here. Poli's here. Debra is here. Locating Cozy is here. Junket. Glass half full. Kimberly. Poof, be gone now. Shauna's here. My mom wants to hear about the man I met yesterday. We believe, after some careful research, he's in a relationship. The ladies I was with were like, he was flirting way too hard to be in a relationship, but it looks like he's in a relationship. So we're giving that one to the wind. It was a catch and release situation. So nothing else to talk about. Francis is here. All right. So yes, drop your Mexico City questions. If you have questions about Mexico in general, I may be able to answer them. But if you have questions about a specific Mexican town, like what's the cost of living in Mazatlan? Girl, I don't know. So you can ask really general Mexico questions and you can ask Mexico City specific questions. But if it's specific to another city, I don't have the answers. I'm not even gonna pretend. Okay, yes, Auntie Lou said return him back to the wild. Yes, we did that. We did that. Okay, so I'm talking to this guy and I look up and one of the women I'm with is taking a photo of me talking to this man. And I was like, I can see you. Don't let this man see you taking this photo. I don't think they did. Okay. Let's see what questions. Hi. Don't mess around with me because you will be leaving your job. Coming from a woman who recently left her job. A woman who is in my group coaching program called From Burnout to Bliss, which you can find from RoshidaDowe.com. See, I didn't move this around the way I needed to. RoshidaDowe.com or from burnouttobliss.co will take you to my group coaching program called From Burnout to Bliss. And 2 people in the program quit their jobs this last week. 2 people. Makes me very happy. All right. Let me see what questions I can. Okay. The Empty Nester says, does it ever snow there trying to get away from Chicago winters? It does not snow in Mexico City, but it snows in other parts of the country. Like more northern parts. It doesn't snow here though. It hasn't in the years I've lived here. But it snowed in LA the other day. So clearly it can snow anywhere. I'm not saying it's never going to snow here. I'm saying in the years I've lived here, it has not snowed. But the weather outside, I want to say it's weathering, but it's not weathering. The weather outside is doing something we're not used to. We're not used to the things it's doing. And so could it snow here? Yes. Yes. Okay, Raquel, I see that you changed your name. I like it. I was like, I know the face. That's a different name, though. I see you. All right. Pansy Rose Reality says, is it hard to get a job in Mexico? Okay, this is a multi-part question. The first is to get a job in Mexico, you're supposed to have a work permit. And work permits are not easy to get, just the way like people can't come to America and get any job, like they have to have the ability to work there. They're not supposed to work on like while they're on vacation or where they don't have a work permit. The same thing here. You have to have residency and permission to work. You can't work as a tourist. You're supposed to have residency and also as a resident, get permission to work, which is difficult because oftentimes you have to be sponsored by a company, just like in the US. If you don't have a work permit and you work a job, they're likely to pay you under the table, which means you're likely to make less than minimum wage. And minimum wage here is now $10 a day. So that's the other part of the question. If minimum wage is $10 a day, not an hour, a day. Minimum wage is $10 a day as of 2023. Do you want a job in the economy of a country whose minimum wage is $10 a day? I wouldn't advise getting a job in Mexico, especially because the hours people typically work here are much longer than the hours we're used to working in the US. So it's more work, less money, and you have to jump through hoops to get the permit to do the work. So, is it impossible? No. Is it worth it? Most people I talk to say no, it's not. All right. What other questions do we have? Dara is trying to figure out her phone situation here. All right, phones can be tricky because there's a very good chance that your US service, if you move abroad, is going to cut you off, no matter what it is. There's a very good chance. I haven't seen anyone, I have never heard of a phone company that has not cut somebody off, right? Not everybody gets cut off. Not everybody gets cut off. Not everybody gets cut off immediately. But at some point, every phone service has shut somebody off. I have Google Fi. I have Google Fi. I ported my number. When I started traveling for a year, I had Verizon. And Verizon was like, outside of the US, Mexico, and Canada, Verizon was $10 a day for service. But I was planning on being gone for $10 a day for data. I was planning on being gone for 365 days. And I didn't want a $3,600 phone bill. So I was like, this isn't really going to work. So eventually I switched to T-Mobile. T-Mobile was like, we'll work from anywhere. The service works everywhere, blah, 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 blah. The service was so slow. Like it took me at least 8 minutes once to open one website. Just to clickety-clack and I'm on their data. I'm connected. But the service was so throttled that it took forever to do that. So I had to pay to upgrade. And it was $50 more a month to upgrade to like fast speed outside of the US. And that just wasn't sustainable. No, they emailed me and they're like, girl, we're about to cut you off. So I switched to Google Fi, which also brags that you can use it anywhere. After being outside of the US for a while, I think I might have made it a year on Google Fi. Google Fi said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. So they cut off my data outside of the US. I can make calls on my Google Fi plan. I can text on my Google Fi plan. I can use the data in the US. When I go back to the US, my data is just fine. But in Mexico, my data is no good. So I have a Mexican SIM card that I use. For data when I'm out and about. Mexico City also has a very good public Wi-Fi network. It has good Wi-Fi coverage. So I have two phones. One is my Mexican phone and one is bought in the US, but I just use it for the Mexican SIM card, and one I use for my US SIM card. I frequently can go out with my US phone in my neighborhood and get coverage from the Wi-Fi network, so I don't even need the Mexican SIM card for data. The other day I was walking somewhere and I was texting someone, and I knew I was about to lose service of the cell phone, of the Wi-Fi service that I was under, because it's not fully connected. Like on one block, there's, what do they call them? The Wi-Fi box was on the tower, was on a pole on one block, and the next one might be like 2 blocks away. So in the middle of those blocks, you might lose service. So I knew I was about to lose service. So I stopped there for 30 seconds, finished typing my message, and then kept walking to the next one where I got her message, right? It's not super smooth and convenient, but I do that. But you can also just get a Mexican SIM and work it out like that. If you have a dual SIM phone or a phone that is eSIMs, that shouldn't be a problem. What I would do now, if I was doing this from scratch, what I would do is I would port my phone number from whatever service I had it on to Google Voice. And I would use Google Voice as for my phone number. And the reason I want to keep my phone number, I could get rid of it. But things like banking, they... like two-factor authentication for US bank companies and other things like that don't always work with foreign numbers. And they also don't always work with voice over IP numbers, which is, I believe, what Google Voice is. I may have said all of that incorrectly, but that's my impression. So some of them will work and some of them won't. But I probably still would do Google Voice. Google Voice and a local SIM card is what I would do if I was doing this all over. Port my number to Google Voice instead of Google Fi. That's it. All right. Okay, it says 52 degrees on my phone for Mexico City. Is that considered warm there? No. But Mexico City is, for the most part, the weather is a lot like the Bay Area. It's a lot like Oakland. We'll say that. I think, in my impression, someone else is going to argue with me. That's fine. My impression is that it's a lot like Oakland, and I've lived in both places, in that you're walking, you're in the shade, it's cold, you hit the sun, you start taking layers off. It's a layering city. So it's 52 now. It'll be in the 70s later today. Yesterday, one of the women I was with was wearing a sweater, and then as we walked down the street, the sweater came off. It's winter here, and it's going to be in the 70s. So it's a very temperate climate. It's rare to hit 30s or 90s. Very, very rare to hit 30s or 90s. It's going to be somewhere in between those. It's not going to get really cold. It's not going to get really hot. Okay. After all these incidents in the news, do you feel safe living in Mexico? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I said this the other day to a friend, but like, if you told me there was $2 million waiting in cash, waiting for me in Matamoros, Mexico, and all I had to do was drive to Matamoros and pick it up and leave, I would be like, that $2 million got to go to somebody else. I would not have $2 million. I wouldn't. Like, I don't go to parts of the country that are known for being unsafe, right? I also don't buy or sell drugs. So I'm unlikely to come into contact with people who buy or sell drugs. So I'm not saying it could never happen, right? Like, crazy things happen, but crazy things happen in the US all the time, right? Like, the thing that people don't recognize about Mexico is that if we're not talking about violence against women, we'll get back to this topic. But if we're talking about violence anywhere, it's usually pretty targeted. It's usually like someone is trying to get some specific person. It's not, I feel like Black people shouldn't live, so I'm gonna go to their grocery store and shoot them up, right? It's not like I'm gonna go to a church and burn it down, right? And so the chances of me being caught in a random incident are much lower here. I definitely feel much safer. No one's shooting up the grocery store. And if it happens, if someone shoots up the grocery store, it happens, right? Like, if I was coming from a place like Chiang Mai, Thailand, where I was like, you could leave your phone at a coffee shop and come back an hour later, your phone will be here. That's not Mexico City. Like, there's petty crimes. Someone will steal your purse. They'll take your wallet out your purse. They'll take your whole purse, right? There are petty crimes. Violent crimes are much less likely. I feel like violent crimes are much less likely to happen to me here, mostly because I don't live a lifestyle that puts me in close proximity to people who commit violent crimes. Now, violence against women is prevalent. I don't know this for a fact, but my suspicion is that violence against women in Mexico looks a lot, violence against random women, like an unknown, looks a lot like violence against unknown or by an unknown perpetrator in the US, right? Like the violence that happens from a man to a woman that he does not know or has no prior relationship with looks a lot like it does in the US, in that the most vulnerable are targeted. And in the US, I believe I fall in the most vulnerable category. I am a Black woman. Who cares, right? In Mexico, I do not believe I fall into the most vulnerable category, right? I am an American in Mexico. And so I'm not saying that protects me from violence. I'm saying that if someone's looking for someone to kidnap, there are much better options than a somewhat visible American woman in her 40s. I'm lazy. You don't want me. What you gonna take me for? I'm just gonna demand food and tell you your place is gross. Right? Like, you don't want me. And so, yes. And so I think there's the way violence against women plays out is not that similar, I believe, in the US and Mexico. And so, like I said, I'm not saying it can't happen to me, but I think I've taken myself away from a place where I fall into the most vulnerable population and fall into like a kind of like a medium vulnerability population. All right, I hope that was helpful. Why not ask the man if he's in a relationship and watch his reaction and what he says? Because men who lie are really good at lying, number one. Men who lie are really, really good at lying. And number two, we didn't know about a woman until after the fact. And so he was gone. And so there would be no watching his reaction. Okay. What's the performing art, music, dance, poetry scene there, both for going to performances and being a performer? Raquel, I can't speak to being a performer, but I know there's a really, it's got a great art scene. Now, a lot of the great art is happening in Spanish. So I would say that there's a large English component here as well. But if you really want to get ingrained in the performing art scene, getting your Spanish to like a really high level would be good. What is the bug wildlife situation like? More specifically, cockroaches and geckos and lizards. Okay. This is the first time in this talk that I remind everyone that Mexico is a very, very large country. It is a massively large country. And so what you see in some parts of the country, you won't see in other parts of the country. I have never seen a cockroach, gecko, or lizard in Mexico City. I'm not saying there aren't roaches, because roaches are everywhere, but we're really, really high up. Our elevation is, we're 1.5 miles high. Denver's a mile, we're 1.5 miles. Yes. And so insects aren't hanging out like that. Mosquitoes, no. Geckos, lizards, it's not that kind of place. It's not humid. It's not hot. We don't get wildlife like that. We have dogs. We have dogs. We have not like wild, loose dogs. We have very well-trained dogs. It's funny. We have what we call Mexican dogs, right? Like when I say we, I mean my friendship circle. The other day I was messaging someone and I was like, there's an American dog in the neighborhood. And they were like, ooh, it's making all that noise, huh? And I was like, yes. I know this is a foreigner. A tourist has come into my neighborhood and is making all this noise because Mexican dogs don't bark like this. The other day I was walking down the street and a dog came out of its apartment with, I think, an employee of whoever lived in the apartment. I don't think it was the dog owner. The dog looked at me and jumped up on my leg. And I was like, "You're not from around here, huh? You are not from around here. You are not a Mexican dog. You are a foreign dog. They got to teach you. We don't do that here. You just jumped on my leg." Like, boop. Very excited, very happy to be outside the house. I think I was the first person they came in contact with. Boop. Mexican dogs don't do that. They will literally walk past you like they don't, unless you have like a steak in your hand. They are walking past you like they don't see you. You could be eating too, like eating in a restaurant. No, they don't care. They are not bothered about you. So what we have most of are dogs. They're very, very well behaved. They're very well trained. You'll see them off leash. They're not bothering you. They're walking past you. They're not literally. Sometimes I'm often not offended, but like, dog, you don't see me in my joy? You don't see me and get the vibes that I need you to come sniff me? Like, you need to come, like, tell me that I'm a good person. Come on, dog. It's validation hour, buddy. Like, what are you doing? Why are you just walking past me like you don't see me? Why are you walking past me like I'm not a friend? I am a friend, doggy. Come here. But sometimes they're just like, no, you're not my people. I'm going to ignore you. There's a lot of like, I'm going to ignore you. But it was really cute. I really like dogs. The other day I was walking past a dog walker, and sometimes dog walkers will have like 10 or more dogs of varying sizes. It's quite fun to see. I'm walking past a dog. I'm swinging my hands. A large dog looked at me and walked over, and he pet me. I'm walking. My hands like hanging. You know, you're walking. Your hands are hanging down. He took his head and like pet my hand. I guess he wanted some physical touch. I was like, I don't pet strangers' dogs unless I have consent. I don't like people doing that. When I had a dog, I didn't like people doing that. Don't just walk up to my dog and pet them. But like, I'll let you sniff me because that's good enough. But we were walking past a dog walker, so I didn't do anything. You know, I'm not gonna ask you. We're in a crosswalk. The dog was like, "No, you have to touch me." I said, "Yes, yes. You know I'm a good person." Okay, anyhow, all that to say, no cockroaches, no bugs, no lizards, no geckos. Dogs. It's a city. Someone asked me about the monkeys here once, and I was like, I don't think you understand what we're talking about. Like, imagine New York City without the rats. I've seen one mouse, two mice in like public parks, not in homes. Imagine New York City and the animals you would see in New York City. It's going to be like that, but less, because it's a much cleaner city than New York City. It's a significantly cleaner city than New York City. All right. I'm preferring nose today. I don't know why. Okay. Tramise asks, have you known anyone to rent cars here in Mexico to give any insight on that experience? I rented a car in Playa to get to Chichen Itza. Fine experience. I rented a car at a certain price online, and when I got there, they're like, no, if you don't pay for our insurance, you can't get the car. So it like doubled the price. But it was for one day, and I wanted to go experience it. So I was like, whatever, it was fine. But we're talking about Mexico City, so I will tell you that I discourage everyone from driving here. I wouldn't ever plan on driving into Mexico City until you've seen Mexico City drivers. I have been in a lot of places, a lot of cities with absolute insane drivers. I've been to multiple cities in India. I've been to Cairo. I've been to places where it's like, Mexico City is worse. It's hard to explain how bad it is. I would never recommend anyone drive in Mexico City who isn't born and raised in Mexico City. If this is not where you learn to drive, I wouldn't recommend it. Other places in Mexico, you'll do just fine, right? when I was in Puerto Vallarta the other day, someone was talking about how like crazy the drivers there were. And when I had got there, I was coming from the airport to my hotel, I was like, look how peaceful these drivers are. Look at how beautiful. Look at how everyone's just following. They're in a lane. They're following directions. It's so cool. And someone was like, it's so crazy here. And I was like, oh, you don't know crazy. You don't know crazy. The one thing that is not here, there's crazy drivers here. In the years I've been here, I've only seen one road rage incident, and it involved two men getting out of their cars. I think the closest they got to each other may have been like a slight chest bump, and they got back in their cars. Like, it's crazy driving, but no one's shooting each other because no one's throwing things at somebody else. Like, people will be like there's not a lot of honking. There's enough honking. Like, I was in an Uber once that was like honking at a cop for being in his way or doing whatever. Like laying on the horn at this cop, like, you need to move out my way. Okay. But there's, as insane as the driving might be, there's not like there's very, very, very few incidents of road rage. All right. They don't deserve all of your Black brilliance. Nobody does but you. Save that brilliance for yourself. Glad I could help. Kimberly grew up in Sonora, and the air was okay there. But I keep hearing the air quality in CDMX is bad. Is that true? Okay, so we're at a very high elevation, so the air is already thin. There's not a lot of there's not as much oxygen in the air, and it's brown. I grew up in Riverside, California, where the air was brown. Flying out of Mexico, the air is brown. You can physically see, you can see with your eyes the air. I went to La Paz last year in the fall, and I was like, oh my God, the skies are so blue. Oh my God. Like, I was really like, oh, I forgot some of y'all live like this with like gorgeously blue skies. Oh, that's a thing. No. So I cannot see the mountains today. That's how I know how the air is outside. I look outside, and from where I live, on a clear day, I can see the mountains. On a bad air day, I can't see the mountains. I cannot see the mountains today. Not even like, I don't even know that there are mountains there. I can't see the buildings halfway to the mountains. I recommend, if you have asthma or allergies or anything that makes it hard for you to breathe, I definitely recommend checking an app. So I use the Yahoo Weather app. Right now it's telling me it's 55 degrees, or it'll be 58 in 30 minutes. It won't. But it usually tells me how the air is. So the air quality is mediocre. Consider reducing the intensity of your outdoor activities if you are sensitive to air quality issues. And the air quality is 56 out of 100, which puts it in the yellow zone. I can't see the mountains, and it's 56 out of 100. I think the higher of a number is, the worse it is, based on this. Let's see. The best air quality value is 0 and the worst is 100. So it's just over halfway, and I can't see the mountains. Imagine on a 100 day, like if there's a fire or something. No, the air is not good here. It's not a place, like, people come with asthma and allergies, and they do just fine. It takes a while to adjust. This is not a city where, like, I did a video earlier this year on on altitude sickness, and I'm going to drop a link to this here because it's important. If you have any problems breathing, you want to watch this video before you come here, because if you're the kind of person who has to go, and you get altitude sickness, you're gonna be mad, very mad at yourself. It's a dry city. The air is not good. It's not for everybody. I tell you, it's not for everybody. Sarah didn't notice fitness centers while there recently are as much of a thing as in the US. Yes. There's lots of gyms here. And just like in the US, they're easy to join and hard to leave. Easy to join if you have residency. If you don't, it's harder to join gyms. I don't know. I have one in my building, so I've never joined one. But I do know that they're looking for, if you're a tourist, it cuts down on the number of gyms you can join. Can I still work my online business if I'm in Mexico on a tourist visa? Correct. This is a question that I think is going to fall into I think this is a legal question. And I'm a lawyer, so I don't answer legal questions because I'm not going to lose my license, right? But I know plenty of people who work their online businesses from everywhere in the world without paying any attention to any visa situations, as long as they're not physically making money in the local economy. I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying I know plenty of people who do. Okay. How difficult is it navigating the trams and autobus systems in CDMX? Do you have a preference now? I had this conversation yesterday with someone. When you want to, if you're visiting, unless you really, really love public transportation, I would say stick with Ubers. If you are living here or you're planning on moving here, I would say use the subway. So that is, like any other subway. Most of them have women-only cars, which I like, not just because they're women-only, but because for most of the times, they're less crowded. Women and children only. They're less crowded. So there's, where isn't somebody like on your back and on your front? Besides the subways, we have two different types. Well, I'm going to ignore the Skytrans for now because they're probably not going anywhere you're really going. But there are two types of buses that are popular here that I recommend before you get to the loose buses. Rock with me on this. There's a Metro bus. It's the red bus. It goes within the city. It goes to very definitive stops, very definitive routes. It stops usually in the middle of the street. You get on, you know where you're going next. Boom, you're there. The next one is the trolley bus. The trolley bus is connected to wires at the top of the rail wires. So the bus is connected to the rail and it goes. So it can't vary from its route. The Metro bus and the trolley bus do not vary. Now, the trolley bus I was on yesterday did not stop where it was supposed to stop. It stopped blocks later. It announced it was going to stop where it was supposed to stop, and then it didn't stop there. Okay, but it was on the same route. The regular loose buses, as I'm gonna call them, the city buses, you have to really want it to do it. They don't follow the mapped route that you might expect to take might not be where they drive, right? I've been on one before where I'm looking at the map we are 4 blocks away from where we're supposed to be. Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm gonna get off where it looks like I should get off. I have waited for one that was supposed to come every 5 minutes. I've waited 45 minutes without seeing a single one of that bus. A lot of times, on my bus route, the city bus route, and the city buses aren't operated by the city. I'm sorry, I don't want to be confusing about that. As far as I can tell, they're privately owned and operated, but they run like city buses would. They look like the bus from a city. So in my neighborhood, they're purple. In a lot of neighborhoods, they're purple as well. They challenging. They have a number, right? There's usually a number and a letter, like the 2F. There's a 2A, B, C, D, E, F. And for a lot of them, the letter, it's mostly the same route, but the letter might be off. or it might go a little further with one letter than the other letter. But the bus you're getting on probably isn't going to tell you the number or the letter. Good luck. It might tell you the number. It's unlikely to tell you the number and the letter. So you've got to figure out, by talking to the bus driver, where exactly are you going? It doesn't say. Like, the information I need, it tells me I'm supposed to be on the 2B, but this just says 2. If I get on this bus, where are you taking me? Are we going to the same destination? You have to ask those questions. And sometimes you're going to get an answer, but it's not the actual truth. So definitely Subway. Ubers are a choice if you're just visiting. Great choice. Subways, good. You always know where you're going to get on, where you're going to get off. Don't do it during rush hour. Ignore everything I just said. If it's around the time that you think people are leaving work, don't do it. Don't do public. Don't even get in a car. Stay home. If it's a Sunday, don't do it. Take a walk around the neighborhood. That's what I'm going to do when this is over. I'm going to take a walk around the neighborhood. Don't do it. When our subways and our buses get crowded, they get crowded. It's very challenging. It's very challenging. You have to learn how to make it work. But one of my favorite things that happens on a crowded bus during rush hour. Generally, you get on through the front, you leave through the back. When it's crowded, sometimes people will get on in the back. What you gonna do, right? And since they can't get to the front to pay their fare, they just hand money to the person in front of them. And then that person hands money to the person in front of them. And so there's this chain of money going up until it goes into the little bus driver clickety-clink box. It goes into the bus driver's money box. Boop, boop. And so, yes, people will enter. I've been on a bus where that happened like 5 times. Like, people just kept entering through the back, and we just passed their money up. I was standing there one day, and one woman just handed me money, and I was like, okay, all right. There's a lot of that having to figure stuff out where you're like, this woman just handed me money. I'll hand it to somebody else. Great. And you just pass it forward. So public transportation here, I use it all the time. It's fine. It can be interesting. Can be an adventure, but it's safe. It is navigating the loose/city buses, as I've called them here. That's an adventure. I do it, but it's an adventure. Short-term rentals are hard here. You're going to probably have to be on a site like Airbnb. I would look for, someone told me the other day, and I think I closed that window. I'm trying to think of what it was. Oh, Uniplaces. I don't know if they operate here. Let's see if they do it. Mexico City, if they operate in. No, I don't think they do. They are in Australia, but they're not here. But you're going to look for something like. No, they're not here. Something like an Airbnb for this. Landlords typically don't want to do 1-month rentals. In some of the groups, in some of the Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, whatever, you'll see people doing short-term rentals, like sublets. Because it's very hard to evict people here, most landlords won't agree to a sublet. So if you're subletting a place, it probably violates the term of the lease. Whether you care or not is your business. But it's probably not, if you're subletting, it's probably not permitted under the lease. I'll just say that. Some, it'll be fine on some. I mean, a lot of Airbnbs are being operated illegally here too. So okay. Let's see. Janae says she's worked out in small gyms or studios when visiting here. I haven't seen large gyms like the US. There are large gyms here. There are very large gyms here. I was reading something the other day with some Americans complaining about the gym culture here, about people not like re-racking their weights and doing stuff and whatever. So I think that whatever, if you choose a gym, you want to check it out and make sure that people are, but like it's what you expect and what you like. But there are large gyms here. All right. Okay, so Poopy Gon says, don't even consider moving to Mexico unless the currency works in your favor. Hi, friends. I was talking to my landlord earlier this year because she wanted to raise the rent, and she did. I told her my rent is already $100. I pay before the rent increase. I was paying $100 more now than I was a year ago, simply because of the strength of the peso. The Mexican peso was getting much stronger, and so things are starting to cost a lot more. Now that I have a rent increase and the peso, the exchange rate is not in my favor. This last time I paid rent, I was like, these are new numbers. These are not the old numbers I was paying before. These are new numbers, and these new numbers are large. I'll put it like this. My rent from 2020 to now has gone up maybe $80 total. So it's 2 rent increases and it's less than $80, I think. No, 80, less than $90. The last time I paid rent, it was $250 more than when I started paying rent in 2020. And so less than $90. So at least $160 of that is not inflation. It's just associated with the strength of the peso versus the strength of the dollar, that exchange rate. $160 more in rent attributable simply to the exchange rate. I'm not thrilled. I'm not. Casey and K, if the minimum income is $10 per day, is the cost of living comparable to the wages? That's a great question and a complicated question. Okay. I want you to believe me when I say your cost of living is going to be personal, and there is no general cost of living in Mexico. Because can you live on that amount of money per day? Yes, people do it all the time. And I'm not saying that because minimum wage is $10, there's like a grand chunk of the population is making $10 a day, because that's not true. Mexico City is very much a city of great poverty and great wealth. And so whose cost of living are we looking at? Like, if you want to live in great poverty, you can live on $10 a day. You could, you would have roommates and maybe no windows, but people do it, right? And so is the cost of living comparable? Mine isn't. Most people who I know who move here, their cost of living isn't comparable to the minimum wage here at all. It just depends on what you want. Like, if you want to work in the economy, you can live on that amount. Are you going to enjoy your life based on where you're coming from and what you're used to? Probably not. People always talk about how inexpensive it is to live in Mexico, and maybe that's a dream. And maybe it was years ago. It's not anymore. I watched a video yesterday from a woman who bought a 1-bedroom, 2-bath condo in the city for 300, that needs renovations. $312,000 for a 1-bedroom condo. I want y'all to hear those numbers and know that if you're moving here because you heard Mexico's really cheap, no, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. $312,000 for a 1-bedroom condo in a building that she didn't show the rest of the building, but based on the size of it, I don't think there are any other amenities. Like there's probably security, but I don't think there's a gym or like a lounge, or because of what I could see of the size of the building. You can get that, like those are comparable to US prices. Let's see. I'm way behind in the comments. Let me get caught up. Boom, 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 boom. Raquel agrees that the weather here is like Oakland. Yep. Tracy just be out here lying. It's hella cold in CMX. It is not. It isn't. It's like the Bay. Like if you're in the shade, it's cold. You step in the sun, it's warm. Layer. Don't come here talking about my city, Tracy. I was with Tracy and she was like, it's so cold. It's so cold. It's so cold. Less than an hour later, she was taking off her sweater. This is not who I was with yesterday. This is another day. In a tank top now, or a t-shirt, like a crop. There was skin showing because she was so warm, but she keeps saying it's cold. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I don't know. Let me see. I'm way behind. Bum, 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 bum. Empty Nester says he's been to Mexico twice in 6 months. Those are my happiest and most relaxing times. All right now. All right. Okay, this is an interesting thought because I think gun culture is divisive in the US even when it's not meant to be. DeRoss says 2/3 of our female friends here in Maryland and Philly have guns. It says so much. I won't go in your house if I know you have a gun. I just won't. I definitely won't spend the night in a place where there's a gun. Maybe that's my trauma. But if you have a gun, I'm not interested in being in your home. No, thank you. And I now live in a country where it's very rare for people to have a gun, right? And so there's less of a question of like everyone having a gun, right? There's one gun shop. If you don't know this already, there's one gun shop in the country. It's on a military base, and you need to have like jumped through the eye of a needle to get a permit to get a gun. Like it's not. There are illegal guns coming down from America, but to legally get a gun, it's pretty much only like police, military, and like ex-military who can have guns. You can have guns, I think, for hunting purposes, but even that is rarely hard to get. Let's see. Okay, random question, but I like it. Do you paper plan your days or your digital planner? I've stopped planning my days, y'all. I was a paper planner. In 2023, I've decided, I talked about this the other day on Twitter briefly, I'm not working this year. Yes, y'all gonna get a summit. And maybe this is just the beginning of it. Maybe this is first quarter Roshida talking. Maybe second quarter Roshida will be on some other stuff. But right now, I'm like, I don't want to work. I don't want to plan days. I don't want to do anything. And so I'm not planning days. The most I'm doing now is putting appointments in my Google Calendar. Like I'm supposed to be at this place at that time. Okay, I'll put it in there. But I'm not like, at this time I'm supposed to be doing this. Or, like Stephanie is a big proponent of planning days. So she'll, like, if it doesn't end up on her calendar, it's not happening. Like she plans things out. Like if she needs to do something, she'll put time on her calendar to make sure she does it. I'm not doing that this year because I've decided I'm not doing anything this year. I kind of love that for myself. I'm also giving myself the option to jump right back in whenever I want to. But at this point, nothing. I don't want to do anything. So I'm not planning days. There are no day plans. There may be appointments, but that's it. Dion asked, do I get altitude sickness frequently? I've never noticed myself having altitude sickness. When I first moved here, I am in the 20s on my floor in my building. My floor is one of the 20s. And we have an express elevator that skips about the first 20 floors. And my first few months here, as I was shooting up in the elevator, I could feel pressure in my ears. Like, when you're like on a plane or like scuba diving, you feel that pressure, that change in altitude that happens real quick. You get the pressure. I felt that. But other than that, I never noticed any altitude sickness personally. Other people, it hits them really bad. Time to go lie down. Time to drink some fluids and lie down. Lay it down until the next day. But me, the only thing I ever had was like pressure in my ears. Yeah, Tremaise. Merida and Mexico City are like night and day. No lizards, no insects, but dogs. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Auntie Lou says, after I get my passport, what's the visa process like? Where do you go? What do you mean after? I don't know what part of the process you're asking about. Are you asking about like the very, very first part of the process to get like a residency visa? If so, I have a couple videos on my channel about what I did to get it on the US side and on the Mexican side, because there are two parts to the process. But I'm not sure that's what you're asking. So if you can clarify, give some more details to that question, that'd be great. You always know when it's a foreign dog. You always know. What are you doing? You jumped up on me? I don't even know you, like in the streets? A Mexican dog would never. I tell you, they would never. Your paws are on me? You put your paws on me? Foreigner. That's a foreigner right there. Okay. Seven had altitude sickness in Querétaro. I'm curious to know how long it takes to get used to that. I think a couple weeks. If you're only here for like a week or so, I would say if you get altitude sickness, day on, day off, day on, day off. Plan some down days. Yeah. Are there any quiet neighborhoods in Mexico City? I think they're quiet blocks. I'm not comfortable saying there are any quiet neighborhoods. They're quiet blocks. So you have to like dig around. I know people who say that like they live in a quiet place. Okay. I don't. I don't. And so it just depends. Because you could be in a neighborhood that's quiet, but you're next to a school or a church or something, or a soccer field. They turned the empty field next to the school that I didn't know was a school because it was closed when I moved in because of the pandemic. There's an empty field next to it. They turned it into a soccer field. So last week, I'm in my apartment, and all of a sudden, there's all this yelling. All this yelling. And it won't stop. And just yelling and yelling and yelling. And then I realize I am stuck listening to men experiencing joy. And I can't do anything about it. Joy. Men. Outside. Like I said, my apartment's in the 20s. In the 20s, I can hear them from across the street because they're yelling that loud. Take that somewhere else. Take that happiness elsewhere. But of course, I can't go downstairs and be like, go on ahead and go home, right? But could your wives and girlfriends and lovers and mistresses call you and tell you to go home, please? Because it was like an hour of men hollering. Ew. Ew. Mm. Mm. All right. Let me see. Okay. Rochelle wants to know how I keep up with continuing education requirements for my license. I don't have any because I have two. I'm licensed in 2 states, and both of them are what's the word I'm looking for? I'm inactive in both states. In one state, that means all right, goodbye. In another state, it means pay us money every year. Did I do that this year? I think I did. In one state, it means every January you're gonna pay us. And the other state, it means holler at us when you want to be active again. So I don't have any continuing education requirements because I'm inactive in the 2 states where I'm licensed, where I have a law license. Okay. Is there a wide variety of food types in Mexico City? The widest. You want ramen? We got you. You want, I don't know, Thai? You want? There's a Russian. I know where to get Russian food. I know where to get some other kind of Eastern European food. I can't remember what it is right now. Anything you want, you can get here. Anything. Can a person live comfortably on $2,000 a month in Mexico City? You can live on $2,000 a month in Mexico City. I don't know what comfortably means to you. You can live on $2,000 a month in Mexico City. You can. Let's see. Yeah, passing money up the back of the bus would not work in the US. No. Here, someone just gets on the back of the bus and they hand you your money. It was like, okay, it is though. It's a community thing. Like, you're not going to steal the person. It's also like right now about 50 cents, right? Like, you're not getting in a beef on a bus over 50 cents. I mean, someone is, but not here. Not here. Just pass the money on and keep it moving. All right. Let me see. Ooh. So someone asked about hotels. Sarah stayed at Harmonic Suites. I haven't been to them, but I know Adelia has recommended them in the past. She got a $50 a day rate last year. You can try them. I know other people who stayed there and really like them. Is public transportation 24/7? It's open late, but I don't think it's 24/7. I don't know what time it closes because I don't go out at night. I don't know what happens in the nighttime. That's not my business. I've never been anywhere after 2 a.m. in the city. But at 2 a.m., I took an Uber home. Janae stayed at Armenic Suites as well. Have I thought about buying a condo in Mexico City? No, I have not. My apartment, my condo that I rent from my landlord has been on sale for almost at least a year and a half, maybe longer. And 4 people have come to see it or less. There have probably been 7 times where there was a potential showing. No, maybe 8. And 4 of them never came at all. And 4 did come in a year and a half. It's really hard. It's easy to buy things here. Easy. In comparison, it's easy to buy things, hard to sell things. And so I don't want to own something that would take me years to sell. Right? Like if I needed the money from a condo to do something else and it took me years to sell it, no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Let's see. Okay. I'm looking at the comments. Yvonne's crossing Mexico off her list. I don't know what I said about Mexico. But we crossed off your list, Yvonne. Carla says, I'm going to be in CDMX for 2 weeks. Is it worth it to head out to the hot springs for a day trip? I still haven't been to the hot springs, but it depends. If you have 2 weeks, yeah, it's a day. Take it and see. Yes, David, we're talking about it's Rose Han. Yeah. I think that the difference is like she came here in 2022, and so 350 might have sounded reasonable, or 312 was what she paid. And then 333 all in with all the closing costs. But for someone who's been here for a very long time, that number was crazy. Like here's the larger problem. People who've been here for a while and who have long memories see numbers like that and we're like, what are you talking about? That number's insane. But that's what things are. That's the current price of things. It's also the same way that a lot of locals blame Americans and Canadians, people who are coming in, for the increased rent, because it's more expensive to rent things now, but Americans aren't showing up and saying, I want to pay more, right? They're paying more rents because they look around and that's all they can see. I spoke to someone the other day who's looking for apartments, and she was shown a 1-bedroom with like a little bonus room on the other side of the 1-bedroom. So it wasn't even like a second. It's not like a separate bedroom because you'd have to walk through the bedroom to get in. Anyway, and that was 30,000 pesos, which right now is going to be maybe $1,600 with the exchange rate, between $1,500 and $600 with the exchange rate for a 1-bedroom. And yes, neighborhood matters, but it was not a neighborhood that supported that price. And that sounds crazy to those of us who were here when that was a $500 a month place, right? A lot of us foreigners who've been here that long, a lot of the locals who've been here their whole life are like, these prices are, I see it in groups a lot. Why would you pay these prices? They're so expensive. You shouldn't be paying them. You should find out what the locals are paying and pay those prices. But those prices aren't available anymore. Those are not the prices that are being advertised. And so while the numbers are kind of mind-blowing, it's like that's what they are, right? Like when I saw what she paid for the condo, I was like, wow, that's a lot. But that's what real estate here costs now. And that's my point. Like the people who are like, yes, it is such an inexpensive city, that's the past. It's not anymore. It's not. It's honestly not. It's not a cheap city to live in. It used to be significantly less expensive. Everything here used to be significantly less expensive than it is now. But yeah. Let's see. Are you able to audit university classes as a non-resident of the country? I don't know if you can audit, but you can take like, I don't know. I've never looked into that. I don't know if auditing happens the same way here. Because the university here is very far from me. I won't be doing that. Like maybe if I could do it online or something I was really interested in, I would. But no, I don't know. Shipping to and from Mexico for business, I don't know. I know I did it myself and it was absolutely terrible. I shipped stuff to myself. It's absolutely terrible. 2 shipments, one has shown up, the other one has not. A month later. Nope, a month and a half later. I don't know about shipping for business. If I ran a business and I lived in Mexico, I would ship from somewhere else. I would have some other kind of base of operations. I wouldn't, unless all of the shipping was to people in Mexico, I wouldn't ship from Mexico. Mm-mm. Love what you collect says, I'm looking to move to Mexico with my 7-year-old daughter who I homeschool. I'm looking at Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Playa del Carmen. Any recommendations? I don't know what you're looking for in a city, so I don't really have any. I don't like the weather in Playa as a long-term option for me. And so it wouldn't be on my list. But I don't know what weather you like, right? Okay. Can anyone answer Auntie Lou about the altitude and air quality in Querétaro or Guadalajara? They're both better than Mexico City. I'll tell you that much. But I don't know. I can't speak to the specifics. Am I fluent in Spanish? No. I'm fluent enough to get by, but not completely fluent. And I understand a lot more than I can speak. Oh, a visa for your first trip, you just show up. Show up at the airport. They're back to giving people 180-day visas again, for the most part. If you live in a country where they offer 180-day visas, they don't do it for every country. But if you do, most of Africa is excluded from a 180-day visa scheme. But if you live in a country where where they offer 180-day visas, or Mexico does, they're back to give it to most people. They might ask you when you're leaving. So if you have evidence of a flight for a specific date, they'll allow you to stay up through that date. Oh, good question. Is the makeup of your building mostly Mexican or made up of international folks? It's mostly Mexican, but I think it's mostly Mexican from other places in Mexico, not from Mexico City. Let's see. Okay, when you want to get your beach fix, how long and how much is the plane ride to your nearest beach? My last 2 beach fixes have been in Puerto Vallarta. I did, be perfectly transparent, I did a first class flight on Air Mexico, and I booked my flight 2 weeks before my trip. I booked my hotel. I forgot to book a flight. I booked one, and it was $300 for a round trip first class flight 2 weeks before a flight, maybe a week and a half before the actual flight. So they're not, you can, if you plan, you could have gotten like a regular coach seat for $50. I didn't plan in advance. And that's like an hour flight, hour and 5 minutes, I think. I think flying into Cancun is about 2 hours, and you can get a $50, $80 flight. Let's see. Ooh, Shauna's stuck. Here's the thing about getting your visa. It's going to be an adventure. There's a high chance that it's going to be adventure. I have heard, I don't remember what Shauna's situation was, that they run out of, sometimes they run out of the plastic, sometimes the printing machine is down, and like you're there until you get your visa. So yes, if you don't have the visa, you'll need a travel letter to leave the country. And once she's getting a residency visa. Once you get your residency visa, you can't leave the country without showing them your residency visa, or your visa goes poof and disappears. Don't do that. Have I been to Puebla Center area? Yes, and I loved it. I didn't think it would be too boring. It's not Mexico City, but I really enjoyed Puebla. Okay, D from Brown Girls Trade 2 is in Guadalajara, and I believe she's talking about Guadalajara here. The air quality seems to be good, although my browser says there are moderate air quality days like right now. Every now and then they will have controlled burn fires in the mountains. Guadalajara. Okay. Y'all too happy. Stop it. It's late night. I'm trying to wrap it up and go to sleep. And all I hear is, I didn't know, I couldn't find them at first because it was their first time making a ruckus. I was like, where's all this noise coming from? Where are all these men like screaming? Where are all these men? At first, it created a bit of anxiety because all I hear are men yelling downstairs. And I don't know about you, but men yelling make me nervous. Why are you yelling? What's going on? So back when I lived in Jamaica, there's a specific kind of yelling that happens, and then the machetes come out. So, like, truly, when I say men yelling make me nervous, like, I'm very used to yelling leading to weapons. Very, very used to it. And not very used to it in like oh yeah, it's whatever. I'm very used to it in like again, y'all are 96. Put that down. You can barely raise your arm. Put down the machete, Grandpa. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so, no, I do not like hearing the sound of men yelling, even if it's a rousing game of soccer. Stop it. What is all that noise? Y'all do too much. But you'll never catch me being the ugly American who tells them to shut up. Make all the noise you want. I'm going to dislike it to myself and in the group chat. And apparently here on this video, but not like super publicly. Let's see. Can I take painting, drawing, and dance classes in Mexico? Yes. Yes, there is, not far from me, there is an artist's park. And on Sundays, maybe that's where I'll go today. On Sundays, they put out their art and they sell their art on the street, and they also sell supplies there. I know someone there teaches lessons. And then dance classes, especially like salsa, bachata, other Latin dance, not necessarily Mexican dances, but other Latin dances are very popular here. Lots of classes. Definitely can do that here. Shipping to and from Mexico is terrible. I don't know what else to say about that. Has anyone stayed in a nice hostel in a private room in Mexico? I do not have experience. Thank you, Teresa, for knowing me. I appreciate that. If you stayed in a nice hostel, let me know. Let Teresa know. Oh, Locating Cozy says, our driving laws in CDMX as strict as they are in other parts of Mexico. I saw your vlog about the lady who went to jail for 48 hours, even though the accident was not her fault. If you're in an accident and someone is hurt and your insurance company does not go to bat for you all the way, you might end up in jail. But as commented here, I think Tracy said she saw significantly less accidents here than in Guadalajara. I've been here for 4 years. I don't think I've ever seen an accident. And I've definitely never seen an accident where someone was hurt. When I tell you the driving is magic here. I don't know what they do. They don't get in accidents. It's very much a aggressive driving. It's aggressive and defensive at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. Now, my friend got bumped by a Mr. Man in a Mercedes. And Mr. Man in the Mercedes saw that he hit my friend. She wasn't in a car. She was walking. She was in the crosswalk. And she had the right of way. And he hit her. And he was like, oh, and took off. And I believe the reason he took off is he knew he was going to be in some trouble. He said, I'm not waiting around to see what happens. I am not waiting around. So very few accidents. She was fine. She's fine. She was fine that day. Like later on, like it was one of those things where she was like, yeah, I got hit by a car. And I was like, what do you mean you got hit by a car? She was like, I got hit by a car. What are you talking about? Like same day, she was fine. But yeah, you don't want to drive here. It doesn't even matter what the driving laws are or what the negative consequence of hitting someone will be. Driving here is going to stress you out. If you are not a born and raised, not even in Mexico, if you have not been driving in Mexico City or like in Mexico City for a long time, driving in Mexico City is going to raise your blood pressure and it's not worth it. Trust me. I talk to people all the time who are like, I'm just going to rent a weekend car. And I'm like, people do it. People do it. I wouldn't do it. Siobhan is talking about the point I said before. She thought about buying a place in PDC last year. There were so many resale listings that were more than 3 years old that gave me pause from buying. Yeah, it's really hard to sell property. I don't want my money locked up for 3 years in a thing I don't want anymore. Let's see. I'm trying to see what I have in thingy. So he's talking about, David's talking about Beverly Hills. I've looked inside a place that costs $6,000 a month over there in Polanco. Accidentally. I didn't know what we were having a different conversation. I thought the number, there was a disconnect. It was a $6,000 something apartment. And I was like, a month. I don't belong here. I'm going to say adieu to you and you and you and you right now. So no, apartments in Polanco can be insane. But no, it's 3,000 isn't that much for Polanco. On the right block over there, it's not even insane because like a $6,000 apartment is like what you would pay. Like people are paying in New York easily and not complaining about. People just don't expect to see it in Mexico City, but that's why I want you guys to understand that it is very, very much a have and have-nots kind of city, right? Like the first time I stayed there, the first hotel I stayed in Mexico City, there was a Ferrari dealership next door. My neighborhood has 2 different BMW dealerships. One is next to a different Ferrari dealership. Like there's an insane amount of wealth in Mexico City. And that's why when people say like, oh, what's the average? Averages mean nothing here. The numbers mean nothing here. If you want to live here, you have to figure out how much money you have and what you can get for the money you have, or the life you want and how much it's going to cost you. Oh, so Shauna did her temporary visa in her resident visa in Puerto Vallarta, and they've been having printer issues for weeks now. So she's stuck. Let's see. Tracy says the art in Mexico City is insane. Being an artist, it really spoke to my heart. Seeing Mexico spoil you. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Let's see. You would think. So what happens? You would think a slow resale market meant you could snap up some deals. What I've heard from real estate agents, this is not me making this up, this is what I've heard from real estate agents, is that a lot of very wealthy Mexicans park their money in real estate. So they don't mind the money being locked up in real estate. They're not going to lower the price. It's going to sell when it sells. They don't care because they have so much money. They're not worried about that. It'll sell when it sells. But it'll sell when it sells over here means that in order for you to sell something comparable, you may have to be the one who lowers your price, right? And if you're not willing to lower your price as well, the people who are buying are just going to see a bunch of expensive stuff on the market, which is what I think is happening in Mexico City. A lot of really wealthy people own stuff here, and they're not lowering the price. They're not in a rush. Like if I had a couple $100,000 locked up in something, might be in a rush to get that money back. A lot of people who own property here are not in a rush. Like I said, my condo's been on sale for a year and a half. I don't think the price has been reduced. In the US, the price would be reduced. Here, a lot of times people don't have mortgages. It's a place for them to store some cash because they have too much cash. So now, you're not getting sales because the market's moving slowly. Not usually. I think I heard in San Miguel in the early part of the pandemic, there were some good deals. Other than that, no. And that time is gone. I checked out there. Those days are over. Okay, let's see. What have I missed? What were the amenities, dimensions, and finishes like for the 6K apartment? I still thought it was a $3,000 a month apartment. I was like, let me look at it. Let me see what they're talking about for $3,000 a month. Until I walked inside. And when I walked inside, no one corrected me on the price. I walked inside and I was like, that number is wrong. The number I was told was incorrect. I just walked in and I was like, I don't know much, but I know this is not $3,000 a month. It was all marble floors. There were three or four bedrooms, each with an ensuite bathroom. There were rooms where I'm like, I don't even know what this room does. Like, it was just so many rooms. Like, I was in there like, I don't even want to physically be in here any longer because it's too much room for me. Like, the couch was custom made for the living room. You could tell because the couch was so big because the living room was so big. I was like, I don't want to. It was just it was room on room on room on room on room. And I was like, This is lovely for someone's family. It's not me. And the woman who owned it, I think she bought something else like down the street before this was sold because she had the money to do that. Woo. Okay, so Shauna is stuck in Puerto Vallarta. She's been on an all-day tour, got her eyebrows microbladed, shaded, getting massages, manis, pedis, attending music festivals, and sampling different restaurants and bakeries. Yes, while you're stuck, do the damn thing. Love it. All right. Is there a need for a VPN? That's going to be a personal thing. Adelia does not use public Wi-Fi without using VPNs. I do, but I don't check like my bank accounts and stuff on public Wi-Fis. I work from coffee shops. Yeah, the city has a cafe culture, so people are always in coffee shops working. Every coffee shop has Wi-Fi. Should you use one? I don't know. If you want to watch a lot of American entertainment sources, you probably need to use a VPN. So it depends on what you want to use it for. You don't need one, but most people have one. Okay. Are there salon styles that service Black hair care or styles? Okay, there are stylists here who braid, who do crochet, but like if you want a curly cut, I've had my hair blown out by a white man. He did a lovely job. Curls, loved it. But it's my first time with letting a man do my hair, which was weird. But it was a white man in Mexico City. But he did a good job at the Michael Johnson from the Michael Johnson salon. But are you going to get a perm in the city? Not unless you brought the perm with you. Are you doing it yourself? Or you got a homegirl to do it, right? Are you going to get, I mean, there are probably services that you can get done. You might not get a silk press, but maybe like a Dominican blowout. Is that a thing? A Dominican blowout? I think that's a thing. I feel like blowout isn't the right term. Whatever it is, they do. I'm sure there's a salon here with Mexican women doing that. But there are no like salons that I know of where there are Black women behind a chair. Is it better to do an Airbnb or hotel? Any suggestions for hotels? People just talked about the Armonique Hotel, which some people like. Like I said, I've never stayed there. Airbnbs, I don't recommend an Airbnb unless I've stayed there in the last 6 months because they can change a lot. And I haven't stayed in any Airbnbs in the city in the last 6 months. If anyone else has recommendations, they can share them. But I don't have any. Let's see. Yeah, this does not surprise me that much. One of our banks won't let us log in unless we're on VPN set on USA. I can't log into mint.com unless I'm on my, I think I can log in on my phone with my VPN on or off, but I can't log into to Mint on my computer unless the VPN is on. And all it's doing is aggregating my stuff, but I can't do it. Let's see. Brooklyn Queen says, my adult son and I were in Mexico City almost 3 weeks ago, and we absolutely loved it. I will definitely add it to my list of retirement places. It's everything she just says it is. Yes. I don't be lying to y'all. telling you the truth, it's everything. Or it's nothing, right? Like people love it or hate it. But it's definitely worth checking out. I would ask if you've seen her work, Carla. Have you seen her work? Some of the braiders in the city are just not. You want to see photos of her work. Make sure you check out the ends of the braids. The braiders here. The hair quality, I would say the hair quality, the top at the roots, how they're attaching it, and the ends of the braids. Those are the three things you want to see photos of. Because sometimes it's just not as good as you would like. Let's see. David says he sees a lot about Colombia on YouTube these days. Do you think it will become the next Mexico for US and Canadians? Would you ever travel there? I've been to Colombia multiple times. I really like it. I don't know that I would live there. I don't know. I've been to Bogota, I've been to Cartagena. I've never been to Cali, I've never been to Medellin. Somewhere else. I don't know that I would live there, but I like it. I would definitely go back. I think I might go back this year. But you bring up another good point, like the next Mexico. I think my theory, the current working theory that I have is that the craze about Mexico, specifically the craze for Mexico City, isn't going to last more than 2 or 3 years, and then people are going to move on. Mexico City got really popular during the pandemic, particularly among people who wanted to be somewhere else, but couldn't be in the place they wanted to be because they were closed. Lots of people were here who wanted to be in Thailand or some other places where they were like, no Americans, stay over there. And Mexico never shut down their borders, so a lot of people came here and discovered it and told their friends. And that's how a lot of people ended up here. I don't think it's sustainable long term. I think Mexico, and specifically Mexico City, might be a good and safe launching point for people who might go explore the world further, or who might then go and find a place they really want to be. Oh, in like 2020, late 2020, in these Facebook groups, there was a whole bunch of people complaining about how much they hated being in Mexico while they were in Mexico. I don't want to, I don't like it, it's corruption. Lots of complaining. Go somewhere else. I think that those people are going to leave. I think that once the hype dies down, there'll be less people coming here. And the prices of things right now are not going to be sustainable. But I'm also curious because rents don't typically go down. So now that the rents have reached this level that are not sustainable, what are people going to do when they're less? What are landlords going to do when there are less people in the city and people aren't willing, and there are more apartments than people willing to rent them? What are these Airbnbs going? A lot of people are getting apartments for Airbnb because our lovely mayor has been working in conjunction with Airbnb to get more Airbnbs in the city. But when the level of tourism drops, what's going to happen to those places? Because the level of tourism is going to drop at some point. It is. Just like everybody talked about Tulum in 2019, 2020, 2021, Tulum, everyone talked about going to Tulum. Everyone was going to Tulum. People are still going to Tulum, but not at the same level that they used to. We'll see. Glass Half Full wants to meet up in Colombia. Tell me when you're going. Maybe I can make it down. Let's see. Why are you in the comments making friends? You know how I feel about that. Misako and Vela has braids, lives in CDMX, and has a YouTube channel. Might be of help. I've talked to her about her braider. I don't know if she wants me to say this publicly. Yes. Ask questions. There's some shade happening in this moment. It is not about Misako at all. And it's not about her braids either. But she gave me specific instructions when I talked to her about her braider, about things I needed to do to make sure I got a good result. Let's see. Dural says, I have a friend who bought a townhouse in Tulum, now trying to sell it. Good luck. Good luck. All right. Any other specific Mexico City questions? Carla, if it's the same braider, bring your own hair. Those are the instructions I got. Bring your own hair. Backpack Vegan says, visited Mexico City 5 years ago and loved it. Wondering if there's a comparable city in Mexico and what do you think about Polanco for my next visit? Okay, so I don't think any other city in Mexico compares to Mexico City. Other people might disagree with me. They're wrong. But if you want to be wrong with them, okay. There's no other city. It's like saying what city is comparable to New York City. Someone might tell you Chicago, but they're wrong, right? Like there's no like Chicago is Chicago, Mexico City is Mexico City, New York is New York, right? Guadalajara is Guadalajara. These are all very different cities. Polanco, okay, so Polanco is tricky. I live just outside of, I always say I live just outside of Polanco. People call where I live Polanco, but it's not. And that's the thing to look out for when you're in any neighborhood in Mexico City. When you're in, especially if you're looking in Airbnb, what neighborhood they say it's in and what neighborhood it's actually in. My girlfriend's daughter stayed in a unit in my complex, not my building, but in my complex. And they had stayed on Mazarik before, which is one of the main strips in Polanco. It is it's the section that they call the Beverly Hills of Mexico. So it's like one street that is the Beverly Hills of Mexico. Boom. It's where all the luxury stores are, whatever. They stayed on that street. Great experience. And then they stayed in my neighborhood, which people call Polanco, but is not Polanco. It's not technically Polanco. You got to look at the map and see these things. And this poor, sweet summer child called my neighborhood Porlanco. She was like, I don't like being in Porlanco. And it is. I do not live in Polanco. I live in Porlanco. She said it, and I was like, I want to argue with you. I want to push you down the stairs, but like, yes, Polanco is the best description. So when you're looking at Polanco, if you're looking at Roma, if you're looking at Condesa, if it's important to you that you're in a certain neighborhood, you need to look on the map and see that you're actually in that neighborhood, because people call things that are not the same thing. Like you will look at a place, it'll say Roma, and it'll actually be in Doctores, which is a completely different, significantly different neighborhood than Roma Norte. They're going to tell you it's Roma Norte, but if a street has a doctor on it, it's probably Doctores. You've got to look at the map. Completely different. People will say like, oh, it's just a couple blocks over. I'm going to call it this because everybody knows this. It's going to be a different experience. It's going to be a different experience. So it doesn't really matter. Like a lot of these neighborhoods, I don't really think it matters what neighborhood you're in. I think it matters what you want to do and that you pick a place that's close to the main thing you want to do. If you want to go to the anthropology museum, pick a place close to it in Condesa, maybe on like the south end of Polanco, right? Like pick a place that's close to what you want to do. If you want to spend all your time in Centro Histórico, pick a safe place in Centro Histórico. There's lots of them. If you want to go to the pyramids every day, go north, young man, north and east, right? Just head out that way. I don't think the neighborhoods matter that much because you'll find safe neighborhoods all over this very large city. But if you want to be in a specific neighborhood, know that them Airbnb people will lie to you. They will lie. If it's important to you for any reason that you are in Polanco, you have to look at the maps. 9 times out of 10, when people tell me they're in a neighborhood, I'm like, that's not where you are. It's close, but that's not actually where you are. And that's fine. If you don't know and you don't care, that's fine. Like a lot of times people say they're like a place is in Polanco, it's in Granada, which is close, but all of Granada ain't the same. Most of Polanco is kind of homogenous. The surrounding neighborhoods are not homogenous. They're not. Some parts of Granada are one thing and some parts of Granada are something completely different, right? And so I don't think the neighborhood matters as much as what you want to do and being close to it. But if a neighborhood matters to you, look at a map. They're going to lie to you. It happens all the time in Airbnb here because people know like 3 or 4 main neighborhoods. And so they'll say it's in this neighborhood. And I'm like, that's not. Doctores is close to Roma Norte, but it is not Roma Norte. And if you've been to Doctores, you know what I mean. Okay, so let's see. Best way to get pesos out of the ATM with a card from a U.S. if you are a person with American banks or who can open an American bank account. And any card that allows you to take out money without fees or reimburses you for fees, like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, or what's that military one? USAA? One of those. If they reimburse you for fees, I don't know USAA's thing because I don't have them. So keep that in mind. ATMs are definitely the best ways. Just make sure you're not getting charged fees. I don't drink coffee. So I'll go to a coffee shop and drink. I'm drinking a juice. I might drink like I don't know, something, but it's rare that I'm drinking a coffee. And I don't know what good coffee is because I don't drink coffee. So gotta ask somebody else. Best neighborhood for having green space or park for exercising? Almost every neighborhood. It depends. So like a lot of neighborhoods have a street, like a main street that has lots, like a tree-lined street. Being near the Alameda, there's a big park there. We have a park here that's twice the size as Central Park in New York. And so being on Reforma Avenue and getting access to that park, if you want a really large park, there's that. But every neighborhood is going to have a park. My neighborhood has multiple parks I can go to for exercising. I think it really depends on the field. Like Mexico City is a city where you have to come and look. Don't rent from a distance. You have to come and look and see what's offered because a lot of things are there, but they may not be there in the way that you want them to be there. Okay. Where do you shop for groceries, household supplies, furniture, appliances? My main anxiety when furnishing my first apartment. Okay, great question. Complicated question. Groceries, I use an app called Rappi, Rappi, and there's also one called Corner Shop that Uber owns. I think they purchased it, they acquired it. For the most part, I get all of my groceries delivered unless I am somewhere and I want to do some like artisanal shopping, right? Like I might walk down to the fancy part of Polanco and there's a city market there that is like, it's like a Whole Foods. So maybe I go to the Whole Foods and I pick up one or two things while I'm there, but the Whole City Market. Go to City Market, pick up one or two things, bring them home with me. But like for most of the things I buy, I'm telling Rappi, and there's a Costco right there too. So either I'll go to Costco or I'll have a Rappi person go to Costco for me and pick up stuff. You don't have to have a Costco membership to shop at Costco through Rappi. So I get all my household supplies there. Appliances, I bought Costco online and I bought on Amazon. I told y'all my first TV disappeared off the back of the Amazon truck. And then Amazon was like, girl, like, you know, they're like, oh, we don't know where this is, but we're gonna try to deliver it tomorrow. No, Amazon was like, okay, so we'll give you a refund in like 5 days. Amazon was like, we're pretty sure that TV's never going to be seen again. So let's wait a few days and we'll give you a refund. And the TV was never seen again. Because if the minimum wage is $10 a day and the TV was over $500, is it worth getting fired for taking a TV? Possible. Appliances here are not inexpensive. Appliances and furniture. I got most of my furniture. I shop at IKEA for like smaller things. I got my desk and my chair on Amazon. Most of my furniture has come from Liverpool, which is a department store here that is like a kind of like a Macy's. There's a West Elm here. There's a Pottery Barn here. There's all of those things here. I walked in Pottery Barn and I was like, what are y'all smoking with these prices? I walk in West Elm and I'm like, that's not even real wood. These prices are like, it's stupid. And it's things like, yes, we have this couch. There's one in the entire country. Shall we send it to your house? I'm like, you have this model on the floor and there's one couch in the entire country. Okay, I was also shopping during the pandemic, like the height of the pandemic when stores were locked down. So it was harder to do it. But if you're buying a couch or a mat, something you're going to sit on for an extended period of time, you need to put your butt on it because a lot of furniture here is uncomfortable. It's why I wouldn't rent a furnished place, why I wanted a place that was unfurnished, because a lot of the furnished places are ugly. I don't know how to sugarcoat that. A lot of the furnished places are just ugly, and a lot of them have uncomfortable furniture. And so I wanted to furnish a place. I went to Liverpool. I paid probably more money than I should have, but my furniture is very comfortable. People will come here and be like, ooh, this is one of the most comfortable couches. That's why Adelia, I think in one of her videos told you that she laid dibs on my couch. If I ever leave, she's like, I want that couch. Yes. Yes, because I shopped for weeks to find a couch that I was willing to sit on. It was during the pandemic. I was sleeping on one air mattress and using another air mattress. Exact same twin air mattresses, one as a bed, one as a couch. That's what I was doing. I did it, I think, for like 6 weeks while I was looking for furniture. 6 weeks while lockdown, while they wouldn't sell furniture. I couldn't even buy a folding chair at Walmart. They were like, that's furniture. You can't buy it. No. 6 weeks of the lockdown and then furniture shopping before I got what I have. 6 weeks on those air mattresses. Because furniture here is generally uncomfortable. And when I found a couch I liked, I was also shopping for things that I did not have to wait to get made. I wanted something I could just order and have delivered in a few days because I'd been on air mattresses for 6 weeks. I found a place that was like, we can make your furniture in 30 business days. But if you're familiar with Mexico, you know that 30 business days is probably more like 45 business days, possibly even 60 business days before you get to sit in it. And I'd already been on an air mattress for 6 weeks. I was like, no, it's lovely. I like it. comfortable. I can pick the colors. But I have to wait how long? No, I won't be doing that. So I wanted something ready-made. It wasn't difficult to furnish. It was expensive for what people think Mexico is. I mean, like buying my furniture was like buying my couch was like going to Macy's and buying a couch. I probably wouldn't go to Macy's and buy a couch in the US. I would be looking for a cheaper store. The cheaper stores in Mexico didn't have the quality I wanted, so I went to the Macy's equivalent and paid the Macy's equivalent price. Furniture resale, there's on most of the Facebook groups for expats, people move in and out all the time. There's people always selling things. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. I have one thing for a Facebook group. It's a mirror that I bought a couple years ago. Gorgeous, love it, perfect. Everything else, you have to really be hawking those sites all the time, because the minute something goes up for sale, it's usually sold pretty quickly, unless it's crap or people are charging too much for it, right? It usually goes pretty quickly. Which utilities are renters typically responsible for paying? Typically all of them. I pay my gas, my electricity, water, and internet. Gas, electricity, water, internet. Yes, I pay them all. But they're like low. Like my utilities, most of those bills, except for the cable bill, cable and internet is the same. No, my internet and my Netflix are together. They're wrapped up, and that's $25 every month for the internet and the Netflix together. And then the rest of my bills total might come to between $10 and $15 a month. So my utilities are somewhere between like $35 to $40 a month total. Total. Do stores do cash back? Juarez is a good one. Cuauhtémoc and Juarez are good. It depends on how long you're going to be here and how picky you are. I knew I was going to be inside during most of the pandemic, and I didn't want to be in an ugly place. I wanted to have a little bit of outside space, so I have a balcony. I have a really, really great view that you can't get in most of the city. And I was unfurnished so that I could furnish myself with things I love instead of being on somebody else. Like I saw a lot of like dark brown leather couches or like leather couches, which is fine until you're on it for like years, and when you rip something happen. Give me my stuff so I don't have to worry about what I do to it. If I spill coffee that I'm not drinking on my couch, it's my couch. How's the dating scene for Black women? You have to ask somebody else. It's both. There's both. I opened Tinder last night, mostly Mexican men in there. Hinge has mostly foreign men. I have nothing for you on this front. I don't want to date enough to put work into dating. And so I just don't have the answers. Do I go to public gym here? No. Are they comparative to the US gyms? I don't know. I've got a gym in my building. I don't know. I hear people say they're just like them, and I hear people say the culture is different, but I don't know. Okay. I have to renew my temporary residency, so I plan to spend 3 weeks in each city. Querétaro, Mexico City. Fly into GDL and fly out of Mexico. Can I take a luxury bus to each destination? From depends on the route you're going. If you're flying into Guadalajara and then going to Ajijic, I don't know about luxury buses on that. There are buses. I took an Uber from Guadalajara to Ajijic, and I think it was less than $20. It was a couple years ago. Querétaro to Mexico City, there's a luxury bus. Guadalajara to Querétaro, I'm sure there's a luxury bus. Guadalajara to Mexico City, I'm also sure there's a luxury bus. Ajijic, I'm not sure because if there's I know there's buses, like I said, but I'm not sure if there are any of the luxury lines that go that way. Like the ADO has a luxury line, ETN is almost all luxury, I think, and Primera Plus is also luxury. They all operate in different parts of the country, though, so I would look at all three of them to see what they have offered in those spaces. They don't all operate in all the same places. But yeah, you can take a bus between all those destinations. Let's see. Teresa, oh wait, no, poof, be gone now. I see you asking about reserving tickets online. I wouldn't do it. Just go there and buy a ticket. Unless you're traveling on like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there'll be plenty of seats on any bus you want to go on. Like if I'm leaving from Mexico City and going to Querétaro, there are probably at least 2 luxury bus lines that operate that service, and each of them have a bus every hour, if not every half an hour. I find that buying them in person is safer in case you get traffic or something. If it's a weekend, right? Like if I'm going to San Miguel on a Friday evening, which I don't do anymore after I was stuck in traffic, and it added a lot of time to that journey. But if I was doing that, I would buy a ticket in advance. If I was going to San Miguel on a Tuesday afternoon, I wouldn't buy a ticket in advance. Because when I get to the bus station, someone's going to be like, yes, right. You have a bus leaving in 5 minutes. You want to get on that bus, or you want to wait 30 minutes to get on the next bus? Right? I'd allow myself that flexibility to not buy the tickets online unless I'm traveling on the weekends or on a holiday. In a lot of the expat Facebook groups, people will try to sell you their crap that they don't want anymore for stupid prices. Where it's like, why would anyone ever? Like you say you've had it for 3 years, but that's the price of it brand new. Why would I pay you the brand new price for something you've had for 3 years? Just because you want to get rid of it. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Let's see. Is it common for renters to have to supply a stove and fridge? Yes. The first time I tried to rent a place, it was right before I had to have knee surgery. So I was in talks to rent a place, and it had a dorm room fridge. I was like, no, I need a real fridge. And he was like, we don't supply those here. And I was like, well, if you want to rent to me, you're going to supply it. And he's like, I mean, I can buy a used one, I guess. And I was like, well, I'm not renting it without a real fridge. He was like, okay. But it had a stove. I would have been renting from the owner of the building. Their son had lived in it. The guy I was in conversation with was the son of the owner of the building. So the place he lived in as the grown son in his 30s had a stove and a dorm room fridge. If he wasn't the one who lived in that apartment, would it have come with a stove? I don't know. My place came with a stove. It also has a hole for a dishwasher. And I was like, I'll never be putting a dishwasher in here. I won't be doing that. But there's a hole for a dishwasher. The landlord was like, that hole is going to be a hole. Good luck, God bless. They put a stove in. They did not put a fridge in. I bought my fridge. That is very normal. The metro is lovely. Not lovely. It's a train. It's okay. It's like taking the subway in New York City with less human poop. And by less, I mean none. None. Right? It's a subway. You get on, it's crowded, it's hot, but there's probably no one dancing. I took the BART. I was back in the Bay Area in January. I took the BART, and there were people rapping on the Bart. And I was like, oh, I missed this for today. Now that I only have to do it this one time, I missed this. Doesn't happen here. There might be someone walking through selling stuff or asking for money occasionally, but they're usually so crowded, but it's not happening. There are police or military in every station. I usually wait in the area that's reserved for women and children because I usually unless I'm like running to a train and there's one right there I need to run on and it's empty. If it's not all of those situations, I'm waiting for the women and children one. There's always like police and military at the gate for the entrance to make sure that no men enter that space. Segregate me, please. Thank you. Thank you. It's super safe. It's fine. There's nothing. It's not like, yay, I took the subway and it was the most exciting thing ever. Some of the stations are gorgeous. Some of the stations are meh. It's a subway. It's clean. It's crowded. That's about it. I don't drink tap water anywhere in the world. So is it safe? I wouldn't do it. Because it's not just the tap water, it's the pipes the water's coming through. What you know about them pipes? Nothing? I know nothing about these pipes. I don't drink tap water anywhere. I think tap water is why I was in the emergency room twice in the US in like a 2-week period. After that, I'm like, I don't drink tap water anywhere. Mm-mm. Do I use the water for cooking? Yes. I boil water. I use water for cooking, but I don't drink it. All right. Tara has to buy a fridge, washer, and dryer. Stove is there too. I bought a washer dryer combo and a fridge. My stove was there. Sabrina wants to know about Semana Santa. The city clears out. The people in the city who can afford to go on vacation, go on vacation. And so the beaches all get really crowded. The city gets empty. Semana Santa and Christmas are the slowest times in Mexico City. Now you're going to pay to use a bus station, a bathroom. You're typically, if you're in a public place like the bus depot, it's going to cost you about 5 pesos, which is about a quarter to use the bathroom. In most places, prices may differ. Look for toilet paper before you actually go to the bathroom because it might be outside in the wall. It might be like not outside, but like in the bathroom on the wall. But they're clean. They're clean. Okay. Yes, Semana Santa it's slow in the city. All right, I think that's it for questions for today. I thought we'd do an hour and we'll be done. Y'all made me work today. 2 hours. Okay, thanks, y'all. Tracy says Roshida makes being as large as it is. It's surprisingly very clean. It's a very clean city. It's a clean New York with nice people. I'm always here if you want a one-on-one session. I was going to tell you how to book a one-on-one session with me. You can do it at RoshidaDowe.com. You can figure it out there. But like I already told you, I don't want to work this year, so I'm not going to tell you how to do that. If you want to and you can find me, you can do it. But I'm not plugging this because I don't really want to do it. Honestly. Love y'all. Mean it. Y'all get some videos out of me for the rest of the year. You're going to get a summit. I think that's it. Don't forget to like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I talk about Mexico City a lot. It is my favorite place in the world. It's why I live here. Happy to answer any questions. If you have questions after the fact, I'm probably not coming back to the video to answer them. Got to catch me live. Catch me in another live. I'll answer your questions in the live, not in the comments. Try Google. Google's got you. Or another one of my videos. All right, y'all. Thanks bunches, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.